Well, it's 2 minutes after, so we're going to go ahead and start. Thanks for showing up today. It's happy day after Memorial Day.
Do it for work. You guys
Probably going to not have as many people on today, but that's okay. We'll still be able to get some stuff done and talk about some great leadership stuff. So again, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. This is our last Provoke for the season. So we will take July off, and then in August, we have the Global Leadership Summit, which is an amazing conference. If you've never attended it, you do not want to miss it. I promise you, it is such a great. So that's going to be on August 5th and 6th. And Bud Hauser and Fred Brooks are the directors of GLS, and they've got lots of great stuff to say about it, right, Bud?
Right, Kathy.
So why don't you take it away and give us some more information?
Well, thank you, Kathy, and thanks everybody for being here. As Kathy said, August 5th and 6th, Southbrook is one of a little over 550 sites in the United States that will be hosting the summit. That's one of over 1,300 worldwide and over 400,000 people. So it's a pretty good thing. And it's looking very good. We are going to host it on site. You also have a digital option, but it's looking pretty good for on site. And from what I'm hearing from folks, people are anxious to get back together again. So happens then. And we ask you to, we told you a lot about the summit, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but regard the GLS as a resource. As a resource to meet other folks, to collaborate with other folks, to catalyze city movement, to learn, get challenged, and be inspired. Want to remind you that as a participant in Provoke, you have access to the special price of $99 until July 13th. After July 13th, it goes up to $129 as a public participant, as a participant at Southbrook. Now, to do that, you need to go to DaytonGLS.com, which was on the invitation to today's meeting, so you can find that there. And there you can register. And to get the $99 price, you have to access the block that says Southbrook Family. So you go in there, it tells you how to do that and how to get the $99 price. And one more reminder, you have until July 13th to get that after it jumps by $30 for that. And again, that's versus a public price right now of $199. So that's a significant savings there. I want to remind you, if you're an educator or a nurse, you can get continuing education units through attending GLS. So you have that available too. And furthermore, if you're in education in any way, shape, or form, there's another price you have access to. We could help you with that. And last thing I want to say about DaytonGLS.com is you can get access to the Global Leadership Network and learn more. You can also, if you have any questions for us, you can submit it through there and we can get back to you with whatever you need to know. And a few seconds here, we're going to run a very quick video. I think it's a minute or less. It'll give you a snapshot look at the faculty members and who's there. And between now and July, you'll probably see a couple emails from us that we'll be sending out to Provoke registrants. And it will include a link that will take you to a 10-minute video on the faculty. It gives you a lot more detail on the folks that are going to be there, so you can check that out. And again, you'll see that in an email or two within the next few weeks. And so I hope to see you in August. Pete, if it's okay, let's run the video, and Kathy and Wendy and Scott, you guys can take it away after that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an amazing conference. If you've never been, like I said, you just don't want to miss it. There's so many great speakers, that lineup of people, you just go away feeling like you've had a drink from a fire hydrant. So there's lots of things that you can get from it, that's for sure. So thanks, Bud, for talking about that. Really appreciate it. Also, we'll be sending emails and today's slides, things like that to you in an email form as well. So if you are not on our email list, make sure that you either put your name in the chat or you can go to provokedayton.com and scroll to the bottom and add your name there as well. So whichever you want to do is great. Well, for our last session, we are talking about inspirational leadership. We thought this topic would be a great topic to end on, to really kick off your summer and to go into our fall with this concept of inspirational leadership. I have a definition that I want to read you here. It says, inspirational leadership is the ability to be a positive influence on those around you and motivate others towards success. Employers of any experience level can practice inspirational leadership, whether they are an executive or an entry-level employee. Inspirational leadership offers the opportunity to develop your ambition based on your actions and attitude. I love that definition because it's about everyone, right? There isn't just CEOs or certain people that can have inspirational leadership, but it's our choice, right? It's all up to us, and it's based on our actions and our attitude. So take a listen here. Anna's going to take it away here and tell us more about inspirational leadership.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take us back a little bit to talk about where we've been and over these last 2 seasons of Provoke. I know some of you have been with us the whole time and some of you have joined us midstream. So let's just anchor back to where we started a couple of years ago. These whole 2 seasons of Provoke were really about how do we strengthen our emotional intelligence competencies. And so you'll see the ones that we've underlined are the ones that we really dug into over the last couple of years. We spent the first season looking at self-mastery, because what we recognize is that leadership of self is what helps us effectively lead others, which is relationship mastery. And so we're wrapping up in this last quadrant and down here in the bottom with inspirational leadership, and that all of these other competencies really serve us really well in showing up in a way that brings out the best in people. So Kathy set us up with a great definition. And so as we think about this, we just want you to kind of hold this, that at the end of the day, the inspirational leaders are those that really help people, choose to show up and do their best work in whatever kind of circumstance they're in. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a couple of movie clips that Pete is going to tee up for us. So there are 2. And as you watch these clips, I just want you to consider, is there inspirational leadership that's demonstrated in the 2 clips? What do you see? Well, one clip is more, I think it more talks about inspirational leadership. So just pay attention and see what you pull from it. And then we're going to ask you a couple of questions. So once we watch these 2 clips, we're going to watch The Blind Side and Invictus. I want you to be thinking about this. How do you describe, or what really tells you the difference between a good leader and an inspirational leader? Right? So that's what I want you to be thinking about as you're watching these. Okay. So just jot down any notes and then we'll come back. So Pete, I'm going to turn it over to our tech wizard to get this started. So we'd love to have some of you come off of mute and just tell us what stands out for you as you watch those things in terms of inspirational leadership. Where did you see inspiration? Where didn't you see it? What did you notice?
Well, clearly, this is Todd on the blind side. You know, she connected with his strengths, his values, right? Right, and then translated that into kind of the next mission, right? Which get him more oriented around what he needed to do on the football field, but tying back to who he was, where he, what was at his core, and what she knew would motivate him.
Yeah, beautiful, Todd. Yeah, thank you. I love that connection to strengths and values. Yep. What else? What else did you notice?
And I'm just going to jump in real quick. In Invictus, at the very beginning, I just love how, he asked right away, asking him, how do you define inspirational, leadership? And then going on to say, it's about getting them to be better than getting them to be better than they are, and really making sure that, he understood that. And then the piece around, we need inspiration, right? In order to be able to help others, to be their best and for ourselves. So that was, I thought, really powerful.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah. That it takes us to a place we haven't been before, right? That there's this opportunity sorry, I got distracted by this note that just came up. Sorry. Yeah, I know. Just seeing, I was like, that we're often called to do things that we don't think we can do. And how is it that, as a leader, we can bring people to that? Yeah, great. Great. Let's just take one more. I know we're quiet this morning. We're coming off of Memorial Day. One more reflection in terms of what you saw.
I think people connect to story, right? So it was almost like, remember when, or a story. And I think for most of us, we want to be a part of a story.
Yeah. Wow, Scott. Yep. Beautiful. Yep. Okay. So let's, I'll ask you to use chat for this one. So what is the distinction between an inspirational leader and a good leader? How do you really say, ooh, this is the distinguishing piece of what good versus inspirational? And you can put it in chat if that feels more comfortable than coming off of mute or video. All right, so we see things around motivation to act, mind versus heart. Wendy, I love that. Right. So a good leader you can take action, but the inspirational one pulls on what makes us best. Yeah, takes us beyond what we thought was possible. Yeah, Jackie, it's so great to see you. Oh, Todd, beautiful. Goals and vision, like the difference, calling towards something. Those are beautiful. But I would agree. More effective. Yep. Oh, Katie. Yeah, it's about the kind of climate that gets created, the safety in which we can show up and take risks. And because if we're getting called towards that vision to do greater things, we do need the space to fail. And beautiful. Okay. All right. So Wendy, I'm going to turn it over to you and you can lead us forward in this concept of inspirational leadership.
Terrific. Thank you, Anne. Great seeing everyone. Good morning. I can't believe this is our last session of the season, but I'm sure the next couple months are going to go quick. And we've got GLS, which is exciting, and then see each other back in September. So, Anne, would you mind bringing up the slides, or are you the one doing that, or is that? Great, thank you. So I really just wanted to touch base on continuing the conversation around inspirational leadership. And as leaders, we want to inspire those that we work with and those at home, right? Or anywhere else that we're engaged with people. But unless we are inspired ourselves, we're not going to be successful in inspiring others. We can want to do that all day long, but if we're not inspired ourselves, we're not going to get very far. So if it's truly important for us to inspire others, we really need to dig deep and find our own inspiration. So how do we do that? And you may have heard me talk about space and grace, in other sessions that we're in, but I really feel like we need that in order to think about and feel into what inspires us. And so when we think about our why, and another way that I like to say it is, what's that fire in your belly, right? That gets you going. And I want you to think about that. So I'm going to just share just a little bit about mine and where my inspiration, what's my why and the fire in my belly, or at least part of it. And while I'm doing that, I'd love for you to be thinking about what yours is. So I know for me, it is to connect and to collaborate with others so that they see their value, right? To be the best version of themselves. Because when we're the best version of ourselves, we're able to accomplish what we want to accomplish, be who we want to be, affect in a positive way who we want to affect. And so for me, that's what's really important. It's the collaboration, it's the connection to others to help them at the end of the day that they feel, see, understand the value they bring to the world. If I take that deeper as far as where did that come from, it's really connected, and some of you know this part of my story, but it's connected to my kids and we lost their dad to suicide in 2012. And so that fire in my belly started burning even more so when that happened, because for me, it's really wanting to make sure that I can make a difference in the world by really being able to help people to see that the value that they bring. Because you can imagine going through something like that, that's what drew me to that. And so if you struggle with this, right, some of us have a story like that, or a big story or something that's happened in our life that's kind of created that fire in our belly as far as who we are and what we want to do for the world. And some of us may not. And so if you struggle with this is something that I heard, and I'm going to point you to after this, and we could probably follow up and send you a link to it. But Simon Sinek has a video called Start With Why, and it's the golden circle. But he helps to walk through that with you, right? What is your why? So, but what he was saying is that if you ask a few of your closest friends who would be there for you no matter what, and he says not your family, because your family's a little too close, but if you think about some of your closest friends, ask them, why are we friends? And ask them, what specifically about me is it that I know you would be there for me no matter what, right? And when you hear their answers, the ones where you feel, the answers that you really feel the emotions, so whether it's, you have that hair stand up on your, on your arms, or get a little lump in your throat, or whatever it might be, that's leading you to your why. And again, sometimes it takes a bit to sit in that. But for some of us, we do know what that is. So I'm just going to ask anyone, whether it's anyone on our team or whether it's anyone just, on the call, is there anyone here who can share what your why is, or what that, that fire in your belly is that brings you to your why, that leads you to being an inspirational leader?
I'll speak up. I have to echo what you said, Wendy. thing that drives me is just a real desire to have a positive impact in the lives of others. And really, it's part of my personal mission statement, which I've had written out, is to make it into heaven and take as many people with me as possible. And I guess the fire in my belly just starts. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I help Fred with leading the Global Leadership Summit. Is such an enormous, and this is not a commercial. It is such an enormous opportunity to work with others, to collaborate, to make a real difference in the world for their benefit, and hopefully maybe expose them to some things that they don't know about yet.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Bud. Thank you very much for sharing that. It looks like Jackie said in chat, my why is to live my life in such a way to be a light to others. Yeah, absolutely. And you do that, by the way, Jackie. Thank you. Anyone else?
It's Amy. I'm driving, so I can't look at you.
Hi, Amy.
But I'll chime in. Hi, everybody. My why is similar to yours, just helping people become the best version of themselves, helping people understand how loved and cherished and worthy they are. And it brings me such joy when I see like the light bulb go off when they've made the connection to help them tap into their own purpose. So, like you,
Awesome.
of course. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going off a video. Have a great day, guys.
Good idea while you're driving. Thank you, Amy. Yeah. Be safe.
Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you for sharing. And I would just, encourage all of you to think about that a little bit more. And I just saw too in the chat, Kristen said, my why is to bring dignity, value, protection, and shine light to mainly people in the urban inner city areas. Oh, that's wonderful too, Kristen. Thank you. See, this is the cool thing. We have how many people on this call, and look how powerful just those few things, fire in our bellies are. I mean, geez, we can make it such a difference in the world. Okay, let's, if we could go to I have one more slide I just wanted to share. So this just takes it a step further. So we can know, maybe what our fire in our belly is and what our why is. We also have to have the ability to have the vision of our own inspirational self. So really taking it even further. So I'm going to invite you all to play along with me a second. If you're driving, do not close your eyes, Amy. But for anyone else, if you just take a second and just close your eyes. And I'd ask you to just take a deep breath. And maybe one more deep breath. And just think of the inspiring leader that you want to be. And this is for those of you that already might have that in mind and might not, right? And think about where you want to express that inspirational leadership. Again, that could be at home, it could be at work, it could be at church, absolutely anywhere. And with your eyes closed, I want you to think and see that picture that comes to mind for you. What is the vision? What's the picture that you have in your mind of what being an inspirational leader is, and just being an inspiration to others? And when you have that picture in your mind, what is maybe a phrase or a metaphor that comes to mind that describes the kind of inspirational leader that you want to be? And just maybe take one more deep breath. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and come back. And then I would just invite you to, you know, again, that's that space and grace. And that was just what, 1 minute maybe? But that's that space and grace that we give ourselves to actually have the vision. And so I'd invite you into sharing now what comes to mind. And I'll share mine real quick just to get us going. But I really had to think about this. I'm not really Ann and I had this conversation about maybe it's a metaphor, and I'm like, a metaphor? Like, what is a metaphor? I had to remind myself what a metaphor was. But I don't know, you know, this is what came to mind for me. So mine is a beacon of light. And it's, how I define that and my why behind why it's a beacon of light is really a beacon of light that guides others on their journey and to encourage and give hope and to bring light to their gifts and their talents. And again, the value that they have. So that's how I came up with mine. So I'd love we have a couple more minutes, few more minutes. I'd love others to share what yours is. So I'll just kind of open it up either in chat or just jump on. And not that it exactly has to be a metaphor because it's a little early for metaphors. So maybe it's just the vision that you had in your mind. Oh, I love that, Marty. Further together. That's awesome. Hashtag further together. Can't forget the hashtag. Okay, and then Kristen says, a model to follow for a purposeful, joyful, peaceful life. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Kristen. Katie, teamwork makes the dream work. Yes. So true. Kathy says the word humility keeps coming to mind. Yeah, I love that. Authenticity. Yep. Good ad, Katie. Because if people don't see us, right, showing up as just who we are, and there's just, you know, without a mask and if they don't see that, they're not going to trust us. And how can we be inspiring? Anyone else have anything else to add?
You know, Wendy, you talked about the Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle, which is like one of my favorite videos. And what's really interesting, that obviously Dayton being the home of flight, is the Wright brothers. They fought against a man named Langley, and I think Langley Air Force Base is actually named after him. But he was given 2 grants, $70,000. To fight against the Wright brothers for flight. And the Wright brothers spent $1,500 building a plane. And $1,000 of that was for lodging going to the Carolinas. So $500. And they were, you know, Langley had, I think he had some Harvard students on his team, had all the capital, all the money, had everything. And they asked the Wright brothers, like, what motivated you to beat Langley? And they're like, well, we weren't trying to beat Langley. We just wanted to fly. That was it. And then, so I think when you think of a lot of people that might be fighting through life because they have a scorecard in their back pocket, I think theirs was, you know, completely different. And kind of like that fire in their belly. We're just gonna 2 guys that made bicycles in Dayton, Ohio. So we're gonna figure out how to do this. And it was just a really beautiful story. And if you have a chance, I think that video is only like, I don't know, maybe 12 minutes long. But it's a really powerful video.
Yeah, I think Scott, I love what you just shared as far as the Wright brothers, and then also agree with you. Simon Sinek, Golden Circle, really good way to help you to connect with your why. Thank you. So what I would suggest is, and as I usually say this, what I would invite you into, if you so choose to take the challenge, is this is something that you can take away with you. Like, what are the action steps? One thing at Provoke is that, and I think our team all agrees with this, our hope is that we're sharing information with you, and then we share some, all together when we're together, but the real work happens when you leave here. And so the whole goal, right, the entire goal of why we were together in general, but over this last season is focusing on all of these things in order for us to be inspirational leaders. And so in order for us to do that, we need to give ourselves, again, I'll say it, right, the space and grace, and take the time to think about these things. So I'd invite you into really taking action and writing that vision down. If you had it today while we were together, write it down. And then I would invite you into sharing that with someone. Who can you share that with that will help hold you accountable to that? Right? That you can have those conversations and say, you know what, this is what it means to me to be an inspirational leader. This is the vision that I have. And this, this is my why. Because when we speak it out loud and we write it down, it becomes more true, right? So thank you very much for being a part of this group. Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can help wrap us up. And voila. You're on mute, Scott.
Yeah, I tell you, I do think that's something that we're not going to hear in heaven. And I'm kind of really looking forward to that. Yeah.
So true.
It is crazy. But what's interesting about all that, and by the way, Jackie, it is great to see you. It is great to see you on, and I've been praying for you every day, and what you're going through, and you're just you're a beautiful person, and I'm really grateful that you decided to get up and be with us today. I think I learned from my dad a long time ago. My dad said that everybody needs encouragement, and the people that deserve it the least need it the most. Now, that took me a long time to figure out, because I was always maybe pretty good at inspiring those people that had it all figured out, or hitting their sales goal, or were moving fast and accomplishing things. But I never understood the people that were maybe just lonely, broken, tired, and just afraid. I could, and you know why? Because I was lonely, tired, broken, and afraid. And I say that because I think most often when we're not inspiring, and this is just me speaking, but we most often take out on others what we dislike the most inside of ourselves. And so when I kind of lack this inspiring attitude, I think what I began to think about is what's going on in my own life. And at the end of the day, we're taught to love ourselves like our neighbors. And if we don't love ourselves, then our neighbors don't have a shot. And I think it's really about how we feel about ourselves. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to give away what we don't have. Recovery is really important to me. And in recovery, sometimes, we say, you got to fake it till you make it. And then, sometimes that's what you have to do. But we serve a loving, caring, graceful God who loves us as much at our very worst than at our very best. And for some reason, we want to put the shenanigans of scales out in our lives. And it's not an accurate portrayal of the love that he has for us. And those of us that have children understand that. We love our kids at their very worst, and we love them at their very best. Obviously, they're a lot more fun at their best. There's no question about it. But our love doesn't shift and it doesn't change. And those of us that have grandkids, that is just fantastic. I took my grandson to Target, and if you can remember taking your kids to the toy store when they're little, and you were the parent, it was like chewing on a bag of nails going down the toy aisles. I mean, because it took forever, just back and forth, and you're trying to get stuff done, and you got a soccer game to go to, and just all this crazy stuff. With my grandson on Saturday, we went through the aisles, and he picked something out, and I'm like, hey, are you sure that's what you want? Because you know what we should do? Let's just walk down these aisles one more time. And then like all 7 of them, you know, walking around there. And then we got through it a second time. I'm like, hey, let's just make sure we got everything like we wanted, you know, and he had like 4. And I'm like, hey, you know, 2, that's the limit. That's it. And it was just, it was so much fun to have the patience. And I think for inspiration, we need to be patient with people. The circle has always been really useful to me. And maybe because I like books with pictures, because it's simple for me. But when I use the circle, it helps me kind of understand maybe how can I impact and grow people. And we do this also, and Kristen, you had mentioned this too, in regards to maybe inner city youth, and it's really a big passion of my life. And one of the things that we even talk to some of the inner city students in regards to how do we inspire others is the first step might even be somewhat selfish, but in other words, what words would inspire you? If you sit back and think, if somebody told me this about myself, that would inspire me to move forward. And we might have to think about the words that would be most meaningful to us. And then, you know, we'd have to discover in regards to, you know, how would that make us feel if we heard those? How would we hear them? Would we believe them? And then discuss, and this is with another human being, because like I said before, your brain's like a pet neighborhood and you shouldn't be there alone. Discuss with another person around, hey, if those words hit me, why are those words important to me? I think sometimes as leaders, you know, we might hear something inspiring from another person, and sure, we can rent that or we can borrow that. But, you know, maybe sometimes, and maybe this is just me speaking, we want it to just sound cool instead of it just being real and authentic and meaningful to us. And then go tell someone, honestly, what you wish somebody would say to you. I don't think it's any more complicated than that. If there's a place to start to be inspiring, is the words that you wish you would hear. I have a trophy. I don't even know if this is on here anymore. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this glorious story about cheating in a golf tournament. But if you were at Provoke, it's an awful story. But there's words on the bottom of this trophy that I have stuck here, and it's the words I wish people would say to me. And that's kind of how that's how I started with those students. It's words that I wish that I would hear. And as those students began to walk around the room and they began sharing their own words about what they wish they would hear, what was even more incredible is we asked the students, if you had to say something about so-and-so, what would you say? And you know what they would say in this act of vulnerability, in this act of courage, in this act of bravery? They actually said the words that these students wanted to hear. You know, they said words like, he or she is trustworthy because I left my book bag. And they came and gave me that book bag. And it was just an amazing experience. Then the second part of that is around, hey, how do we carry this even further is make it meaningful to them. When we think about being an inspiration for people, and we learned this in that video when she started to tell a story about herself and about how she would protect could he protect her? And I think about that is what's important to them. And to really understand how to inspire people, we have to ask them really deep questions, and we have to listen with our ears, and we have to learn about their world. In the workplace, it's really easy to figure that out because we can stay after work, we can walk around, we can see things on their desk that are important to them. In the workplace, you can go look at pictures in their cubicles or in their offices and identify the things that are really important to them. And those of you that still have kids at home, what a really interesting experience is to actually just go up in your son or daughter's room, and not snoop, but to just walk around and see the things that they have on their shelf or see the things that they have on their wall, and just get really curious about why those things are out for them to look at, and maybe just ask them questions about that. And then ask them questions. And I think one of the things that is kind of interesting is the fact that a lot of times in our lives, our values come out of our fears. And most often we will operate out of our fears instead of our values. Now, if we understand that, we can move out of our fears into our values and shed those and push those away. But to plan for inspiration, I think also we just have to, we have to be intentional about it. There's nothing in the world like like a personal note on a note card that's sent on a physical envelope with a physical stamp to someone's house. I'm not a big fan of like Hallmark cards. I don't know. I would rather have someone write me a note on a sticky with their own penmanship, but that's okay. My wife, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say it, but now I can't help myself. You ever get those birthday cards where there's a word where they underline it? Like all of a sudden it just makes it more important. Now she's maybe not like me. We're different, and that's okay. But I would rather hear someone like their own words and just a small hand personal written note. Who here has any voicemails they have saved on their phone? Anybody? Raise your hand if you do. Like from someone. My dad was always the greatest at that. He would leave me voicemails all the time. And what was uncanny is the fact that they were normally when I was at my worst or at the bottom. And I don't think it was a coincidence. But I would get these amazing voicemails, and I would save them, and I keep them on my phone. And every once in a while, I just need to go back and listen to them. I think one of the best things we can do about leaving voicemails is just start off with, "Hey, don't call me. You don't have to call me back." In other words, the only thing that I want is I just want to tell you how special you are and how important you are in my life. They take seconds. They take minutes. It doesn't take much time, but we have to be intentional about it. And then lastly, as we think about this learning circle, we have to really dig into ourselves. And this is where you really need, somebody else to talk to, dig around what's important to you. When I had a coach the first time in my life, I was a hot mess. And what was important to me was probably success and stuff and money and a role and a career. And I hate to say it out loud, but my family and real important things weren't the highest on the list. And it was just messed up. Now, I wouldn't have realized that and maybe until somebody asked me a question or I learned a really valuable lesson. But as they began to talk to me, I began to understand the fact that a lot of those values, they were torqued and messed up because I was just a scared little boy that unfortunately was 42 years old that never grew up. And I got to figure that out. And it was a beautiful journey. And I wouldn't change any of it for really anything. And at the end of the day, what we're called to do is we're called to be inspiring to people. And we're called to maybe torque the world in a different way. I'm watching this mini series right now, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but it's Chosen, and it's It is probably one of the most amazing series in the story of Jesus that I've ever seen in my life. Matter of fact, I'll go back and watch it again and again. And there's a beautiful scene of the adulterous woman at the well, and she walks in the sun in the heat of the day, because she can't go in the morning with the other women because she's shunned and she is pushed and she is spoken to. And somebody on the phone or on the line said the word dignity. She was robbed of that dignity. And watching this vision of Jesus speak to her. And if you go back and watch it, there's very few words. There's very few words in this scene. It's all about eye contact and body language. And it is just beautiful. And all of us do this all the time. And quite frankly, some of us are even impacted and touched by people that do that to us all the time. And so maybe one challenge, as we get off the call today, is maybe just reach back to the people that inspired you the most and just thank them for being an inspiration in your life. Maybe it's not even more complicated than that. I might simply just reach out and call my dad and say, hey, I've got these voicemails in my phone. There's 6 or 7 of them. They go back to 2013. And they're important to me. And maybe we just have to reach back to the people that made the biggest impact on our lives. So I can't thank you enough for being here, and obviously for leaning into this, because we make a big difference on our planet and impact just some unbelievable belly buttons and make this world a better place. So we're excited about next season. To be honest with you, we're not even sure what direction we're going to go, but we're going to figure it out. So we're gonna pivot and torque and go in another direction, and then hopefully, Kathy, we're going to be live and we'll be face to face and we'll be looking at each other. And I'm a big hugger, so look for that. If you don't like hugs, then put your arms out as I come towards you. But as we said in the very beginning, GLS is October 5th and 6th. Don't miss it. It's an amazing experience, and you'll get
August 5th and 6th.
Oh, what did I say?
October.
Oh, yeah. August 5th and 6th.
I knew you know what you meant.
Perfect. And then we will see everybody live on September 7th, right?
Yep.
In Southbrook, face to face, eyeballs, hugs, and everything. So thanks for being with us today, and bless all of you. And thanks for being an inspiration to me.
See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a great week.